Welcome back to the tutorial for creating an iOS app and putting it in the App Store. So let's go ahead and continue in Playground. So if you don't have Playground open Xcode, hold down Command and press Space Bar. That gives you access to searching for Xcode. Just type in Xcode, run Xcode, and you should be back at if you go File and Open Recent, you should have your to-do list app, and open the to-do list Playground that you had. So let me just open mine. Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and delete everything we had in the beginning. So I want to go ahead and review what we had first. So we discussed last time strings and variables, and so this is a string. It's a variable that address in memory. Remember, it's a container, and then it has a value, and the value has a type, and that type is a string. And then we learned about different types. We learned that we can assign a type by putting colon and assigning the type, but doesn't Swift already assumes the type, so we don't have to assign it. So we have many different types, but the most basic types are integers, which are whole numbers. Then you have float, and I showed you there's a different 32, 64-bit floats and ints. So when you need more digits and more memory, so you only have like a huge number that not like that, but huge number that you're storing, and it won't fit in an int, then you use a float next, and then a double is the biggest one, and it uses most memory. So remember, I told you about how you have like memory in ones and zeros, and it has address. So so if you have a float number or a double, so you use more containers of the memory. And then you have a Boolean type, which is a true false. So we have all those types that you can use, and you don't have to specify the type, but some circumstances you do assign, and we discuss there's other types that we're going to discuss later. So for now, let's go ahead and start, and we're going to learn about something like if and else, and we're going to learn about functions today too. Okay, so let's go ahead and start a function. So functions start with a what functions are basically a scope of a block of code that has a name. So everything has a name. So I say launch rockets, right? Launch the rockets, and that basically is an action. So anything you can name your function anything, but it does start with a func, because it's a function. It's kind of like math. You know, you have math in a function that does something. It's exactly like that. So it's a function, and you specify what you're gonna do. So whatever you do in this block is independent of what's outside. So you can't access anything outside here with a function, but you can access, since it's on the top level, the function, I can call launch rocket. But if I were to declare something here, right, I can't access it here anymore. Why? Because it's inside this scope. It's called local scope. So this is a local scope inside it, because it's local to this function. Local scope. And then outside is a global scope. So anything you put outside, say if I were to say let name Henry, see, I can repeat that name variable. Why? Because I'm in a global scope, I'm in local scope, so the local scope doesn't talk to the global scope. So then it's telling me that I'm not using it. That's why it gives me that warning. So now I can say name, but I'm using this name right here because I'm using, so anything that I put here in the global scope, I can access in the global. If I were to wanted to access the local, I have to be inside my local scope, which is the function I've created. So that's global and local. And then if I can create many function, you know. start launch. I can create many functions, so each one is its own local scope. So this function cannot talk to another function, but it can call another function. Why? Because functions itself are in a global scope. Anything inside the function is in a local scope. So that's why I can still call launch rockets, because it's in a global scope, right? It's outside. It's outside too. So it's outside, but this is inside. If it's inside a curly bracket, that means it's in a local scope. So let's go ahead and do something with the functions. We can actually in Swift we can do print, and it prints to the console. So the console is right here. It's right here. And then if I say print hello, and I wanted to start the launch, right? Start the launch will call, and I say print launch rockets. So I'm going to say start launch. So I'm going to call start launch, and start launch is going to call launch rockets. Launch rocket is going to call print. So first it's going to say print launch. It's going to launch rockets first, and then it's going to call start launch. And okay, so if I call start launch, it's going to call launch rockets. It's going to say launch rockets, and then it's going to call hello. So if I play it, so it says launch rockets and hello. Why? Because I'm calling start launch, right? So it comes here to line 13, then calls this first, because it's, remember, global scope, then goes to a local scope, and then says, okay, name is Henry. Doesn't do anything to that because I'm not outputting anything. Anything that I'm outputting, I'm using in the print statement. So in print, it says launch rockets. It says launch rockets, and then once it's done, it's returning. So one thing that we're gonna talk about later, right now actually, is whenever you don't have any code after it, it returns to the previous call. So start launch called, right? And it returned. So start launch calls start launch, right? And then launch rocket calls, it comes to here, and it returns back to here, back to 14, right here. And it calls the print, back to 15, and it calls the print hello. So one thing that functions do have are return statements. So whenever you want to do return statement, means like you want to return something from the function. So I create a function with return. I'm returning something. I can return. Remember we talked about all those types of variables, data types. So I can return, and I say what I'm returning an int, or I'm returning a boolean, or I'm returning a float, I'm returning a double. So I say, okay, let's go ahead and sum two numbers, right? Sum two numbers. And I'm going to return the int. So I'm going to sum 3 plus 4, right? So 3 plus 4. And I'm going to return that. So whenever you want to return it, you say return 3 plus 4. And now if I call this sum two numbers, and what do you think will say? It would say nothing. Why? Because I'm returning it, but I'm not printing it. So I need to print it too, right? So I need to print sum two numbers. So let's do it without, so I can show that nothing happens. Nothing happens, but it does say that in here, but that's a 7. But I need to print it to it in memory. It has 7, but it's not printing it to the console. So if I wanted to print it to console, I say here, print this into the console. Print to the return whatever I got from the return of this method function. Another name is method too. Now it's gonna say okay, and it's 7. So another thing that you can do with functions is you can pass parameters. Parameters are basically datas, like series of data that can be passed. So I don't have to say 3 plus 4. I can say number 1, first number. Remember, and then we learned about assigning type. This is where you actually need to specify what type it is. Say int. It's an integer, the first number, and then second number is also an integer. If you don't specify this type, it won't work. So in functions, whenever you pass the numbers to the function, so you're saying you're passing the variables to the function, and those are parameters. So it's parameters, like that. Parameters to the function. So now I can do this. Now it's saying missing argument. So it's another thing for parameters. See, missing argument. So it needs an argument so it can fill those first number and second number, because I told it, hey, this function wants parameters. So if I go and it automatically tells me, okay, if I'm opening the parentheses open, now I need the first number and the second number. So I'm going to say 3 and 4. But I have also a signature. So missing the argument labels. So this is the argument labels that I'm missing. So I say first number and then second number. And now it's gonna do the same thing, exactly same. Now it's saying missing return because you told me to you're returning a number while you're not doing it. Okay, so I'm gonna say first number plus second number, but I need to say it's returning it, right? So I have to say to specify the keyword return. Okay, there you go. So now if I do it, now I should and it's 7, right? Yeah, 7. All right, so we can do even more numbers. You can do a third number, fourth number. You can do as much as you want, but it's better for programming, good programming practice, to only do maximum 2 or 3 parameters. If you want to do more parameters, then we talk about a different data type that we're going to use. And another thing that Swift allows you to do is return many types. So you can return many different numbers back, because we're returning only one type, right? But if I were to like put this in parentheses, int double float, so it's returning 3 types, right? But this is a different type now. It's returning a tuple now. So, and it's telling me you told me you're gonna return a tuple, but you're not returning a tuple. So I just wanted to show you that, but we're gonna talk about tuple later. It's more advanced subject. Anyway, so I want to give you a homework today, actually a challenge. So I want you to create a tic-tac-toe game, but there's no game. It's just basically says, okay, function start game. I want to say when you're starting the game, you know, so it says start game, end game, and I want you to also, when you start the game, I want you to ask for the, basically say the pass parameters for the user's name, right? So name, like that, and then you know it's the string, and then it would say print. So I wanted to print everything to the console. So starts the game, and then you know how get start pick X, pick your choice, say that, okay, and then pass in the name, and then say print the name, and then say, okay, I picked this choice, and then do the same thing with that, and then kind of like have it have it like call each other, you know, each method and outside a global and local scope. So you basically say, you know, print starting game. I just want to show you how this works. So you starting game, ending game, yeah, and then pick your choice. Whatever you're doing, you print it out, and then you basically have it to at the end. So print, and you can just run that. So if I'm running this start game, it would already have pick your choice here, you know, pick your choice. So you should put this on top so you can see it. That's another thing with global scope, is it has to be before the function for it to see it. And then you just pass in the name, see? And then end game after end game. See, I can't end game. Oh, yeah. Alright, so if I go ahead and run it, nothing will happen because I didn't start the game. So start the game. Start game, and once the name, John. Starting game, ending game. So it didn't say pick your choice because pick your choice didn't do anything. So just say pick your choice. Since I did it with this game, you can do it with anything else. So go ahead and do something with a game or anything game, and say start game, pick your choice, and print it out to the output what it's doing, and pass parameters, and also return. Do some return. Well, when the pick the numbers, pick your choice, return the number, turn an int, you know, do like that. Turn 3 or 4, something like that, right? And if I go ahead and just run it, it won't work because pick your choice is returning, but it's not printing out, so now I need to print this here. Yeah, so that's kind of like that, right? So it's starting game, pick your choice, is picking, and then end game. Alright, so this concludes this tutorial. So next we're gonna discuss classes, and after we discuss class, actually we're gonna discuss loops and if statement next time, and then that one, and then after that we're gonna discuss classes, and then we're gonna get down to starting our to-do list app.